Hello again, and welcome to Nightfall Sleep Radio. Tonight's story is a gentle journey through the marble corridors and dusty footpaths of one of the world's greatest civilizations, the Roman Empire. But don't worry, there won't be a test at the end of this story. You won't have to listen to a lecture or timeline. It's just a quiet stroll through the past, a soft-spoken ramble drifting from emperors to aqueducts to, well, whatever curious paths we may decide to travel tonight. So, breathe in and exhale slowly and let go of your day. Let's think about the Roman Empire together. The Roman Empire officially began in 27 BCE, when Augustus, Julius Caesar's adopted heir, became the first emperor. But even before that, Rome was already ancient. It was founded, they say, in 753 BCE by twin brothers Romulus and Remus, who were raised by a she-wolf. Myth or not, that's a vivid beginning. From a muddy cluster of huts on the Tiber River, Rome became a superpower. At its peak, it stretched from the windswept highlands of Scotland to the golden sands of Egypt. Over 50 million people lived under Roman rule, which is a lot of people to govern without email. It makes you wonder, how did they manage it? All those roads and bureaucrats, armies, trade routes, laws, and concrete. Roman concrete, or opus cementitium, was so strong that some of the harbors they built 2,000 years ago are still standing under the sea. And yet, even mighty Rome had its moments of fragility. Power shifted over time. Great empires don't just rise. They stagger, they fall, they rebuild. Sometimes they forget who they were, just like people do. Let's leave the emperors behind for a moment and wander into the life of an ordinary Roman. You might wake at sunrise in your insula, a multi-story apartment building. Not exactly luxurious, but it was home. What about breakfast? Likely bread, maybe dipped in wine, not a sweet pastry in sight. Public fountains lined the streets in those days. Rome was noisy, filled with vendors and carts, animals and chatter, but also vibrant, colorful awnings, murals, and laughter. At midday, you might stop at a thermopolium, a sort of ancient Roman fast food stand. Beans were stewed with herbs. Honey cakes were hot and sweet. And you'd wash it all down with wine mulled with cinnamon. You could head to the public baths next. The Romans were very into bathing. It wasn't just for hygiene, it was a social scene. Warm water, cold water, steam rooms, masseurs with oils, and somewhere, someone's debating philosophy. Someone else is selling sausages. The Romans believed in balance of body, mind, spirit, of work and rest, of war and peace, of Jupiter and Mars. And if you're lucky, you might end the day in a quiet courtyard, under a fig tree. Did you know the Romans had underfloor heating? It was called the hypocaust system. They built raised floors and then funneled hot air through chambers beneath them. Imagine walking into your villa on a chilly morning, and the floor is warm beneath your feet. What a luxury. They also had postal services, fire brigades, and yes, even pay toilets. The Emperor Vespasian once imposed a urine tax on public restrooms. When criticized, he supposedly held up a coin and said, "Money doesn't stink." They also brushed their teeth with crushed bones and oyster shells, and dyed their hair with goat fat and beechwood ashes. Romans even had a version of concrete graffiti, carved or scratched into walls, poems, jokes, names, gossip, like little time-traveling messages. One found in Pompeii reads, "We two dear men, friends forever, were here. If you want to know our names, they are Gaius and Aulus." Another said, "I was here, and I had a good time." Simple, honest, human messages. Let's drift toward the palaces now. Rome had its share of remarkable leaders, and a few eccentric ones. Take Emperor Claudius. Considered weak and bumbling by some, he actually expanded the empire more than anyone before him, and he adored mushrooms. So much, in fact, that he may have been poisoned with them. But that's a story for another day. And then there's Caligula. Ah, Caligula, who supposedly made his horse a senator. That probably didn't happen, but it tells you how people remembered him. Or Hadrian, who loved architecture. He built a massive wall across Britain, not to keep people out, but to mark the edge of the Roman world. He also built a villa so sprawling, it had its own miniature Nile. Imagine a villa so big, it had its own miniature river. That's really something. That's the thing about Rome. It was full of grandeur and absurdity, logic and excess. One moment, you're admiring marble columns. The next, you're wondering why the emperor has a pet tiger at dinner. But alas, eventually, every empire falls. Rome didn't collapse overnight. It splintered. It shifted. It split into east and west. Barbarians didn't come crashing through the gates in a single day. It was much slower. There was economic strain, plague, corruption, and overreach. Kind of like when your to-do list gets so long you just stop opening it. The Western Empire officially fell in 476 CE. The eastern half, Byzantium, lasted another 1,000 years. Even endings can be drawn out. And so, we've wandered. From Caesar to street vendors, from aqueducts to ancient graffiti. And maybe now, you're not really thinking about the Roman Empire anymore. Maybe your thoughts are floating gently to quieter places, to restful slumber, to peaceful dreams, to well-earned rest. Let your thoughts go where they will. The Empire will still be here tomorrow. Thank you for listening to Nightfall Sleep Radio. We wish you a peaceful sleep, a quiet heart, and a very good night.